Today on Starto.
The do's and don'ts about launching your product.
Should you launch at South by Southwest?
Just launch, ugly baby.
Finding the influencers.
All that and more.
This is Sandy Grayson.
And I'm Chris Franks. Welcome to Starto.
Powered by Icosa.
Welcome to Starto, the show for the worldwide entrepreneur. I'm Chris Franks.
And I'm Sandy Grayson.
Sandy, how are you?
Very, very good.
Your shoes are sassy. Show them to America. What are you sporting today?
We may have shown these already.
Ooh,
these
are pretty good.
Cute.
I find it impossible to believe that you have a pair of shoes that you've worn twice in your life. You're like you're like Imelda Marcos.
I do. I just throw them away.
Five people in the world are going to
it.
find the funny joke in Imelda Marcos, and they're all going to be over the age of 35.
I got it.
She had a lot of shoes, people. She had a lot of shoes. So, Sandy Grayson, it's great to be with you today. We are talking startups. Each week, we like to have a theme.
Wait, you forgot to say what today is.
Oh, God. How can I forget? Dorks everywhere, including our people here.
Our awesome
our team
crew.
at Starto. Are excited because today is what, Sandy?
It's Pie Day.
And we're not talking about rutabaga pie, are we?
I thought we were. I was like, are you going to get some pie? I was ready to eat some pie.
Yeah.
But it's
what
not.
What is it? It's 3.14.
3/14.
3/14 Pie Day.
Pie Day.
And Pie Day is a big deal because while it is talks about one of the biggest numerical curiosities. Numerical. That's a word. I was trying to sound smart.
Numerical.
Numerical curiosities known to man.
You put the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
mainly people in at least Denver, Colorado, just eat pie today.
Yay.
If you had to eat a type of pie, what would it be?
We were having this talk earlier. I like the French silk with chocolate, but somebody said strawberry rhubarb crunch.
You guys are all communists. Apple pie, baby. It's American.
Yeah, that's good too.
Yeah.
With a little ice cream.
I've just accused our entire audience of being a communist. Fantastic.
So we'd like to hear from you. What's your favorite pie?
Oh, there you go. Thank you. Each week we like to talk about a theme. What's our theme for this week, Sandy Grayson?
This week we're following the playbook, so we're going to market.
Going to market,
right? We did ideation, how you get great ideas. Then we did formation, tips for forming a business. This week is going to market.
Going to market. How do you go to market? And particularly in this big, broad subject of go to market, what specifically are we going to be talking about?
Launching. Have you ever had a big launch?
The launch.
Have you ever done the big, giant launch?
I think that I've done okay on launches, but just like most of the things that I have to talk about in the startup world, the biggest things I have to teach about are the things that I fucked up. And trust me, I have fucked up plenty of them. But what about you? You've had some crazy launches in your old world of kind of the guru self-help world.
I have.
Launches were a big deal.
They were a very big deal. It is really how we made our money. And there was a lot of planning and a lot of prepping and a lot of build-up. Right. I made one of my favorite launches. We used Jerry Maguire as the kind of the inspiration. I don't know. I woke up and started playing with his movie. And so I used the whole, who's coming with me?
I will go with you.
And then show me the money.
Nice.
Right? So I was using all of the Jerry Maguire clips in my launch, which made me laugh.
Yeah, do you think that they appreciated you?
It actually got a lot of attention, I think, just because it was funny and different. And I like to, that's my launching tip is make yourself laugh.
Right.
Have fun, because it can be a little stressful. So you might as well be trying to have fun in the middle of your launch and throughout.
Right.
That's my tip.
Well, awesome. I look forward to our conversation on that. But before we get started, let's talk about what is going on this week. Sandy, what's new in the news?
Well, this week at Galvanize, you missed it. You were out of town, but we had a big rally here for Uber.
Was it an Uber rally for Uber?
It was Uber.
Nice. Tell us, so what were you guys rallying for?
So Uber testified. It was the FTC? PUC? There's a lot of initials, but
I believe it's the Public Utilities Commission.
Yes, they're trying to shut them down. Right? We know this.
We know this.
We know this. This has been happening for a while.
Right.
But so they testified. They had like thousands and thousands and thousands of people write in, sign petitions, tweet, Facebook. I think Will, the general manager of Uber, was in court all day long. Travis, the CEO of Uber, flew in from San Francisco or somewhere. And so after an all day of testifying, they had a little party here, a little celebration, a rally to kind of say thanks, Denver, for supporting us. We have some great footage of it, and we got to talk to Will, and we'll show you a little bit of clip of that. But if you would like to see our whole piece on it, it's at icosa.co/Starto.
Right,
it's great. You missed a good party.
I rarely miss a good party, and I missed a good one, I've heard. So let's take a look.
Hey, I have a very exclusive interview for you right now. Mr. Will McCollum, GM of Uber Denver. Will, can you tell us how it went today?
Well, that was my first time in a hearing, so the hearing process itself was a bit on the tedious side, but on the other hand, I think we had some good testimony today from a lot of very passionate users and a lot of passionate drivers who definitely see a threat to their livelihoods and their own companies.
Did anything come from today? Like, is it over? Did you win? Is there more to do?
Yeah, there's much more to do. So the Denver Post earlier today reported that the definition of a motor carrier is not going to change. However, the other definitions within the actual rules and regulations themselves could change. You don't have to be pro-regulation or pro-innovation. You can just be pro-free market. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So, I mean, what they're really trying to do is make it so you're not allowed to do business in Colorado.
That's exactly right. Let the free market decide. Let customers decide. Let the businesses decide. And if it's a quality product that people want and they want to come back to it, they'll let you know. The FTC very clearly said that Uber's good for free market competition. Period. I mean, that's why we have the FTC to make judgments and weigh in on hot issues like this. And I think that win after win after win after win, we're confident that Colorado is going to follow and be a leader in innovation. We just want to say thank you for all the Uber Denver love to Denver.
All right, this is Sandy Grayson with Will McCollum from Uber at Galvanize at the rally. If you haven't already, make sure you go out and support Uber.
Isn't that nice?
I'll tell you that this is, and I know it's kind of a rant that I've gone on before, but I'm going to do it again, which is this has nothing to do with where you stand politically on the spectrum. It has nothing to do with being conservative or being liberal or anything else. The question that people need to ask themselves, are they pro-technology, are they pro-innovation, or are they against it? Mm-hmm. And I think that's the point that they make in the video is this is not an issue about government regulations, even though we like to phrase it that way. It's, are we going to let small-minded people, are we going to let small people that are inherently against innovation make stupid-ass rulings and keep us from moving ahead as a tech community?
Do you feel strongly about this?
Or frankly, collectively, are we going to do something about it? Are we going to stand up and slam our hand on the ground and say,
on the what?
On maybe the table, and say, no, this is not right, and we're not going to accept this.
Well, what Will said, which I really agree with, is it's not about whether you're pro or against. It's about free market.
Right.
Right? They have the right to do business here.
But all those people that don't like apple pie, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Anti-free marketeers.
If you would like, that's just a little clip from our coverage. If you'd like to see the entire clip and all of our interviews with a lot of people that were there, you can go check it out, icosa.co/Starto.
Very cool. And we did forget to say, where can people in podcast land connect with us? You just talked a little bit about it. But
we did, yes. You can download us on iTunes if you haven't already and subscribe to us. We love that. You can also find us on Twitter and Facebook at Starto TV.
Very good. So just about to dive into our conversation about launching, and specifically around a little event that happened this past week called South by Southwest. But before we do, I wanted to give a shout out to our friends at Axles, providers of kick-ass Colorado gear clothing, including t-shirts, very, very cool hats, and all kinds of cool stuff. You can find them at axles.com, which is AKSELS.com, or at cohats.com. So thank you, Axles. We appreciate all the cool stuff you've done, and they have incredibly cool gear, so please go check them out.
Love it.
So let's dive into this topic about launching. And to frame the topic, I want to talk a little bit about a guy named Mark Schuster. Mark Schuster is really well known in the startup world for writing a blog called Both Sides of the Table. He's a venture capitalist. It's come from the world of startups. But there is a ton of misinformation and different opinions out there about how to best launch your company. Now, the reason we're talking about this week is because of South by Southwest this past week. And South by Southwest has now become one of the most popular places to launch your startup. However, Mark Schuster writes an article under his blog, Both Sides of the Table, where he gives the following advice. The executive summary of launching at a major tech event such as South by Southwest, don't bother.
Don't bother.
Yeah, this is what he says. I'm going to read verbatim. He says, so go, be part of the fun. Attend the cocktail parties, meet your favorite tech entrepreneurs, bloggers, VCs, or whoever will be hanging out and talking to randoms at 3 a.m. at the taco stand, or more likely a fried chicken and waffle stand. Network, be loose. Save your time and energy and budget for building relationships with people from whom you can follow up later. If you're trying to launch your company or your next new product, you won't achieve any of these things. Sandy, do you agree with that? I mean, I think that there's so much conventional wisdom in the startup world that the best place to start is to launch your company is at South by Southwest. He's completely disagreeing with that.
Well, I think, it's one of those things that it worked for a few famous companies, and so now everybody wants to do it, and maybe the impact is getting diluted because everybody's at South by Southwest, and they're all trying to get attention. I found a great story in Mashable called 6 Successful South by Southwest Startup Launch Stories, and it basically, I came away with the same impression that your article left me with, which is, do you think you can just show up at South by Southwest and launch a product because there are 14,000 people there, right?
It's launch day.
And it's going to work.
Guess what? I'm going to wear a t-shirt and I'm going to launch my product today. Woo!
Everybody buy.
Yeah.
So, what this article said is, this is a quote, if anything, South by Southwest goers are marketing averse, super savvy, and able to triage credibility or lack thereof with a sniff. So the people at South by Southwest, they know. And they start to feel, the cheesy marketing tricks, and they're not going to just jump on board. So this article happened to list some success stories.
Okay.
But I think there's things here that we can learn from the success stories. So Twitter is probably the most famous company that people associate with launching at South by Southwest. But even though it's most cited as successful South by Southwest launches, that's like a tongue twister, it actually launched 9 months prior to the South by Southwest 2007 debut. So they had 9 months in where they were getting the word out, testing,
Collecting
having people, and then
users.
they used South by Southwest as a launching pad, and they were very smart about it. They put it up in the hallways. They had a group of people they called ambassadors. So they had already enlisted some of those influencers to help get the word out, and then people at South by Southwest in 2007 were able to sign up for Twitter via text very quickly and start following some of these ambassadors that were there to help spread the word. So that was very successful for them. But there was a lot of planning. It was 9 months in the making. And I don't even know how much it cost.
And isn't that the heart of this conversation, which is if you are going to be a company that's incredibly well funded, and I'm talking millions and millions of dollars in funding, and you want to drop $1 million on a launch, do it at South by Southwest. Or buy an ad in the Super Bowl.
Right.
I guess you can still buy it. Probably not $1 million anymore. But spend a lot of money and you're going to get that sort of recognition. You're going to get a lot of attention. However, most people, and I certainly am one of them, would recommend not taking $1 million to try to get publicity. Mm-hmm. And so isn't this just all about money, really?
Well, Foursquare is another one of the well-known stories, right? People always talk about them. They actually did launch at the event, and they said that we started building Foursquare in late 2008, but we really kicked it into gear in 2007 because they wanted to be ready for South by Southwest. That was their deadline. And co-founder, I'm not sure if I can say his name, Naveen Selvadurai. Mm-hmm. He says, we weren't sure if people were going to embrace us or laugh us out of the room for features like badges, mayorships, but everyone in Austin really seemed to get it. So they did focus on that. They did their presentation. And because Foursquare is kind of what South by Southwest is about, people connecting, right?
Sure.
Bringing people together, it worked. The final example I'm going to use, and you can read all of the examples. I'll put a link at the bottom of our podcast. But author Tim Ferriss. This made me laugh.
The 4-hour guy.
This made me laugh, yes. They said he gave a presentation about his first book, The 4-Hour Workweek, at South by Southwest in 2007 in one of those overflow rooms that could only seat about 100 people. And he said, but that talk combined with some minor marketing efforts was enough to launch his career. Now, I'll just say, I'm going to call bullshit.
Okay, because you are a published author.
I mean,
not
I know
quite
his story.
Of the claim.
Certainly not. I am not. I kind of know of. I know Tim Ferriss. I've interviewed him before, but we're not like buds. But what I know about his story is this was no minor marketing effort.
Right.
It may have looked like that from an outsider's point of view, but he spent a tremendous amount of time getting the right people in that room.
Right.
He befriended bloggers with huge followings, and he was talking to those bloggers way before his book came out. So when his book came out, if he chose, I guess he launched it at South by Southwest, all of those people in that room, I mean, they had millions of people that were listening to them, and they were talking about his book and helping him spread the word.
So is the message there, the lesson learned out of that, don't just go and try to shotgun launch, particularly if it's a South by Southwest or anything else.
Just show up.
Yeah, exactly. Launch
with your stuff in a bag. Here you go.
Here you go, exactly, some sort of tchotchke. Launch with some sort of a plan around people that you know can be beneficial to you.
Absolutely. I mean, you're going to give them some tough love, and then I'm going to give them my tips, and that's one of my tips.
Well, I mean, here's what we like to call tough love with Chris.
Chris, do we have a jingle yet? Chris's tough love.
Here's what I'm going to say. Entrepreneurs, we love to sit around and pontificate and think about our launch because that's the moment where all of our hard work comes to fruition and we get to show off our baby. We get to show this thing off into the world. But here's the challenge. Chances are your baby's really ugly. And in that moment, when you're ready to show your baby off to the world, it's gonna suck.
Aww.
9 times out of 10, your product is bad and is not gonna have a good product market fit. So my tough love speech for today is just fucking launch. Don't spend a month and a half trying to plan the perfect launch to have the perfect tchotchkes where everybody's gonna be wearing a bright pink t-shirt. It doesn't work. Launch the product and get immediate feedback and spend that month and a half where you're agonizing over the right bloggers to contact at the right time and spend that talking to your actual users that are giving you real feedback, pivot the company to something that does work. And oh, by the way, in that 6 weeks when you would have been agonizing, you're actually that much closer to being successful. I get the whole concept of launching at Launch Conference or launching at South by Southwest. I get it. You're going to get a lot of attention.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe not.
Exactly. But let me just throw a different scenario at you. What if Foursquare would have sucked? Foursquare is a great success story. They did great. A lot of smart people worked on that team. Very well funded. What if it would have sucked? And people would have laughed them out of town, like you said.
Mm-hmm. Could have happened.
What would have happened to Foursquare? Would we be reading their obituary right now and laughing about those facts of, when was it, 4 years ago, that some company called Foursquare was trying to get us to check in places and use badges?
Well, don't you think badges?
Badges?
We don't need no stinking badges.
Right.
But don't you think there are probably, the guys are laughing at me. Thanks to my husband for quoting stupid movies all the time.
Right.
Don't you think there are probably a ton of companies that we just don't know their names who tried a big launch and failed epically.
And failed miserably.
And they can call us and tell us that story.
Right. And so here's the other thing is that you are pushing all your chips in the middle of the table if you're choosing to launch at one of those things. Because if you suck and your baby's ugly, like it probably is, then the chances of you being able to rebound for that is pretty tough. If you, like I suggest, launch and continually launch and just continually grab users and never go through some big formal crazy launch, but just continue to add users and continue to get feedback and continue to iterate. You never have that moment of danger where you could blow your whole fucking company up based on launching a product that's not fully baked. Tough love by Chris.
That's your tough love. I'm going to make it all better. I agree with most of what you said. I love the continuous launch. I think that that's really important. And I think a lot of people, my definition of launching is different. I absolutely do not think that you should go out raw, inexperienced, first time beta launch, and try to make it big. You have to do soft launches first. A couple weeks, couple months, maybe even like a year of working with your customers, finding those people that are going to love your product and really getting solid feedback. So that soft launch where you're not everybody look at me, but you're just doing your business and putting your product out and getting feedback on it. I think that's very, very important. The other tip I have is finding those influencers. That's what Tim Ferriss did so well. That's what Malcolm Gladwell talks about in The Tipping Point. You need to find these influencers, these people who are the people that tell everybody what's the latest, greatest thing in your industry. Who are those mavens? Who are the ones that are out there? They may have blogs, they may have TV shows, they may just be the guy on the block that's outside that's constantly telling his neighbors, you got to try this. You got to try this. Did you hear about this? Find those people, befriend them, and make sure they're your biggest fans.
Very good.
I think it is good that you can use events to help a launch. And I do believe that a manufactured launch, I've used this many times in my own career, it generates excitement that's not necessarily there organically. So not everybody's product is going to make a big splash.
Right.
When I was releasing some of my programs, I'm not going to make it on the Today Show. It's not going to make, my new fabulous formula, the ultimate guide to building your empire and finding your mojo with balls. That's not going to
You have to read old Sandy
news,
Grayson
right?
to understand
So,
that reference.
we had to manufacture some of that excitement, and that's what a launch can do really well for you. You start off with the teasing, and then you tell people something cool is coming, this new product, this new program that there is a way to generate your own excitement, but it doesn't happen on the turn of a dime. You have to map it out. You have to figure out your launch strategy way in advance, and you have to be ready to shift it if it doesn't work. There were many times we thought the launch was going to go one way, and then all of a sudden something else came on, sometimes something better. Be ready to shift it and say, we're going to go with this angle, this story. But in that process, that's not your only thing. You're already doing business. You're already getting your product out and working with your customers. I think that's the best way to launch.
The one piece of advice is find the right people. Find your influencers.
Well, I had more than one, but yes, that was one of them.
Sorry.
Yes.
One of your multiple pieces of advice.
One of my many pieces of making it better is, I think that is one of the most important things you can do, is find people who already are influencers in their industries and get their feedback.
Sandy Grayson, I can't believe it. We've already spun through our time, but before we go, tell the fine folks how they can find about the videos that we've talked about here, find more information about the show, connect with us, follow us.
Well, subscribe to us on iTunes at Starto Podcast. And if you're listening to our podcast, make sure you go watch the video at icosa.co/Starto. That's where we'll have all of the links to the resources that we talked about. If you want to look at the articles that we discussed, it's all there, as well as like us on Facebook at Starto TV and follow us on Twitter at Starto TV. If you have any suggestions for upcoming topics or questions, or you need your own personal tough love session from Chris Franks, just let us know. I can hook you up.
Oh. Yeah, something tells me there's going to be a line around the block to get yelled at by me.
To get yelled at.
Some bald guy.
I think there's a market for that.
Well, probably so.
Some people just need a kick in the ass.
That's right. Kick in the ass
You're
by
good at
Chris
that.
Franks. Well, that is all the time we have for this week's show. Join us again next week for another episode of Starto, the show for the worldwide entrepreneur.
Go do great things.